in this digital age, 2019, really within the last 5, 10, 20 years, things have been progressing, and people just kind of feel that they have the liberty to say whatever they want on social media. People of all ages. I know we've talked about the things that, I've seen across different social media platforms. Doesn't matter who it is or, what they're talking about. It's how people treat each other on Facebook with the things that they say and, the threats that they make. Why do you think this has become such a problem that people can, feel that they have the freedom of speech to say whatever they want, even if it demeans somebody or a group?
Well, I'll start by saying that I certainly believe in the First Amendment and, the ability for everybody to have free speech. It has changed, it seems, though, in the digital age, and that people feel certainly more free to share, controversial opinions, which they have every right to do. But as you know, and if, you do a news article or we put out a press release, we get comments that are sometimes, a little thought-provoking and sometimes scary because people have a disconnect, I believe, what they write on the internet, what they comment on. Even though their name might be next to their comment, they still feel a certain sense of anonymity when they write things on the internet. And we were in Central Regional High School, Central Regional Middle School, talking to kids about bullying, about their social media presence, and just trying to educate kids on the things that they put out on the internet are going to be out there forever. So it's something that parents really need to take a look at.
And a lot of people go back and forth arguing about having different views or opinions on something, whether it's something that's good in the news or bad in the news that they feel should be done a certain way. And then I've seen instances in certain Facebook groups or whatever where posts have been removed or people's comments have been removed or they've been kicked out of groups for the things that they say or the threats that they make. Is there a way to address what happens with what people say, or is there a way to try to talk to people and say, be more mindful of what you're saying and where you're saying it?
I wish there was. We've certainly tried to set the tone that a civil discourse is the best discourse to have. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, of course, but the internet, Facebook, for adults, really, the kids aren't really on Facebook, but Facebook has become the new soapbox, and it's given everybody a platform to share their opinion, and that's fine. They're more than welcome to do that, but I just caution parents, I caution anybody that's on social media, when you make a terroristic threat or you threaten a person or you try to intimidate somebody based on, a protected class, like in terms of a bias intimidation, that we look at all that stuff. We have a high-tech crimes unit that is very active, and they spend a lot of time monitoring some of the distasteful things that people say. Distasteful is legal. That's part of the problem. They can say whatever they want, and that's fine. They have the right to. But when it comes to personal threats and bias intimidation, we take that very seriously.
How does that unit look for stuff or find out about certain things that are being said? Is it that they look for certain keywords in what's being written on Facebook or Twitter, or is it like a certain hashtag that's used, or what are some ways that something like alert comes up?
We have some investigative techniques that I can't really share with you, but
okay.
We do have a number of methods to look into these things. A lot of them are brought to our attention. We receive a lot of complaints in different forms, and we take them all very seriously. So we look at everything, and that's, there's currently 5 people and a sergeant assigned to the high-tech crimes unit, and they're very busy, and we use them in a number of different ways.
How do you determine what's the difference between what seems or appears to be a threat and what could potentially just be somebody blowing smoke sitting behind a computer screen, just blowing smoke out of their mouth?
Well, that's part of the determination. If it's a threat against an individual or if it's a general comment, that's usually a bright line that will determine which way we're going to go with looking into the comment. The people make a lot of comments, and they're more than welcome to do that. They have every right to do it, and we're not trying to stop them from doing it. But when you threaten a person directly, that's something that we need to pay attention to. And when you threaten a class of people or you try to intimidate them for one of the protected classes, race, color, ethnicity, religion, etc., gender identity, all those things, that's something that we look at. But that threat, again, under the bias intimidation law, has to be towards a specific person. So 90% of the stuff we see on Facebook is exactly how you put it, people blowing smoke or sharing their opinion, but 10% of it is probably something that we look at more closely.
If it is serious and there's an investigation that follows, what are the kind of charges that would be brought against somebody who's making threats or against a certain group or a certain person on social media?
There's a few. Terroristic threats is one. Bias intimidation is certainly another. Threat to cause public alarm is another. So we look at those very carefully before we make a charging decision.
What is your message to, I know, Facebook, kids now in middle school or high school, it's like they're not using Facebook as much. It's more of like a Snapchat, Instagram kind of thing. So what is, and both have features that you could add stories in there where within 24 hours, whatever you write or post videos of, it could disappear. What would be your message to some of these kids using Snapchat or Instagram or some of the other social media channels to communicate with friends or just communicate their feelings about something or express an opinion that they feel that, well, maybe if I put it on here, it'll be gone within 24 hours and, I won't be bothered about it. I can just say how I feel about something.
All right, let me talk about Snapchat real quick. I'm the father of a 15-year-old daughter and a soon-to-be 13-year-old daughter, so my wife and I pay careful attention to their online presence, to the apps that are on their phones, and parents can control a lot of that as long as they're all on the same account. Nothing gets on their phones without us knowing about it. That being said, when they use Snapchat, for example, there is a certain sense with Snapchat that whatever they post is going to disappear, but there's problems with that because whatever they post can be screenshotted, and once it's screenshotted, it no longer becomes their property. And that's one of the things we spoke about yesterday, is that once it's out there and it's in the universe and it's out there in the internet sphere, you never know when that's going to come back. And we spoke specifically about instances of sending inappropriate pictures, and you send, boyfriend, girlfriend, send a picture that they probably shouldn't send, then they break up, boyfriend still has the picture, the girlfriend still has the picture, and then that picture gets airdropped in the middle of school, and then we have a bullying situation where that person in the picture is going to have some problems at school, and potentially the sharing of that picture could be a violation of the law. It could be a distribution of child pornography depending on the person's age. So Snapchat is of a particular concern for law enforcement, especially the way kids use it. Snapchat has over 1 billion users, which is just a mind-blowing number. And they've recently added a feature called YOLO. So YOLO is an app now that is within Snapchat. And basically it allows you the ability. It is probably, since it's been released, the number one fastest growing app for kids and teens. It's an anonymous question and answer app, and it links with Snapchat as a way to share comments and questions with others. So basically with YOLO, you can post a reply or comment on something and answer a question on a Snapchat story. And either function lets you put a picture with it as well. So it's very similar to an Instagram story with like a question sticker, which kids use a lot. The problem with that is once YOLO is on there, you can get anonymous messages, and you can get anonymous private messages, and parents need to be aware and know if YOLO is attached to their children's Snapchat app.
What are some of the other challenges, or how are you addressing some of those challenges, rather, with Snapchat? You type something in on Facebook or Twitter, the words could pop up in a Facebook search or a Google search or something. But, with Snapchat and the videos or the pictures constantly disappearing, how can you track such a thing and determining that if somebody's making a similar threat that they would on Facebook, that they're making it now on Snapchat? I know you can't talk about all the techniques, but is there a way where you can track it?
There is. So there is, as long as we know about it, if somebody tells us that there was a threat made on Snapchat, but that is no longer available for us to actually physically see, and we know the person, which is an unusual situation, but the person is identified, we can get a warrant for that phone. We can take that phone, and here's a bubble breaker for kids that they think that once it's deleted on Snapchat that we can't find it. In Ocean County, we have the only state-accredited high-tech crime lab unit in the state, so we have a high-tech lab, and they can find anything that's ever been on your phone, even if it's been deleted. So when I said that to the kids at Central Regional High School, I had a lot of confused looks staring back at me because they were a little concerned. Now, we have no right to go into their phone unless we think they have committed a crime. So we're certainly not randomly searching phones. We don't have the time to do that. But if there is a threat that's on Snapchat, we'll find it.
What is your message to other parents? I know you have a couple teenage girls yourself that you discussed earlier here, but what is your message to parents who, not even teenagers, maybe preteens that are on Snapchat or social media, about how they can get involved in monitoring what their kids are doing on social media, whatever platform it is, and with that, because kids are creative. They find ways to go around their parents and try to do things on social media or create accounts without their parents knowing about it. How can parents keep an eye on it without maybe their child knowing about it?
Well, the first and the easiest way you can know what they're doing is to make sure that you're all on the same account, because I can see whenever an app gets downloaded to any phone on my account. So that's number one. The other most important thing that parents can do is have an ongoing conversation with their children about technology. I know that's sometimes difficult because they don't necessarily share everything that's going on in their lives, but we try to make a concerted effort, especially when we go out and speak to the schools and speak to the children, to just talk about, and especially talk to the parents really, to just talk about keeping the dialogue open, have a conversation, make sure you know what's going on in their lives. There are certain apps that should never be on a children's phone, such as a second calculator app. There is an app out there that looks like a calculator, and it's a secret app where you can hide videos, files, browser history. You can put it all into a calculator app. So you can literally take your child's phone and go through it and see if there's more than one calculator app, and if there is, you want to tap on both of them and see what's in there, because one should come up as a calculator and the other one comes up as an internet secret folder, really.
What are the best practices, adults, kids, teens, on social media to know that they have the freedom of speech to say what they want, but that they should be careful with what they're saying and not threaten anybody, or be careful with how they're approaching something, how they're using their language, in terms of treating other people? It's
the same thing we try to encourage is a civil discourse. I truly believe, and I've lived my life this way, that you should treat everybody with respect and treat them how you want to be treated, and that's not a groundbreaking or novel concept, but it's something that you should carry through to social media. I stay away from negative comments. I stay away from anything controversial, just because I don't believe, I feel like if you put negativity out into the world, that's what you get back. So we're trying to stay positive and trying to send that message to kids. We would like you to use common sense, and it's a conversation I have with my 15-year-old daughter every day, where I talk about you have the ability to make your own decisions, and my goal as a parent is for you to go out into the world and be able to make decisions with the information that's available to you at the time you make those decisions, and that's an important component. You have to be able to process information and make decisions, and you want to make decisions sometimes that are in the greater good of the people around you.
Prosecutor, anything else you want to add on the topic of social media and bullying and how those tie in, maybe other ways that people could be safe on social media and ways to look out for something or report something? Yeah,
real quick, I'd like to talk about the cyberbullying, and just to make sure that kids, it's kind of like what we just talked about. You have to make sure if somebody is bullying you through social media, you need to let somebody know. The biggest thing and the most important thing you can do is talk to somebody about it. Talk to your parents, talk to your teachers, talk to a coach. You can talk to law enforcement. Kids have, at this point, they share so much of their lives on social media that they don't want to come forward when it goes south on them. And we want to let them know that we're here for them. And talking to an adult about what's going on to them online can sometimes prevent a further tragedy or feelings of isolation.
Prosecutor, thanks for taking out some time this morning to discuss cyberbullying, social media strategies, the do's and the don'ts for not just preteens and teenagers, but adults who sometimes may behave like children.
Make sure you put that in, Vin. I like it.
The things we see, which I'm sure you see as well on social media. How people treat each other and the things they say. It's behave. Just behave.
Yeah.